Hey, it's me, TB, and today I am bringing to you another review video, this time for The City of Beautiful by Aden Polydoros. And when you are watching this, it should be the day of release, which is October 3rd, I think. I was lucky enough to get an arc of this from NetGalley, so that's why I'm able to review it and have this filmed before it is even out. So there you go. This is a Gothic queer historical fiction novel. It takes place during the Chicago World Fair. It is heavily influenced by the fact that the author and most of our main cast, I think all of our main cast actually, they're all Jewish, so Jewish culture does play a big part in this book, and it's part of like the, I guess, world building you would call it, because it does come up quite a few times. And there is a glossary in the back of the book, so if you see a word and you don't know what it means, you can go to the back and find it. So basically, in this book, our main character, Alter, is trying to figure out who kills his friend at the start of the book, and he has to basically recruit one of his former friends. Now, like, they don't trust each other as much, kind of. Frankie, they worked together at one point, but now, like, something happened in the past, and they're not really on speaking terms that much. As well as the girl that he was like matched up with via their local matchmaker, Raziel, I think, who is this like probably the best character in the book, not gonna lie, at least for me. She was just great all around. Basically, they have to figure out who killed his friend Yakov, I think, because the police think that it was a suicide, I think, or that it was an accident, but our main character Alter knows that he was murdered because there have been a string of Jewish boys being murdered. So, of course, our main character has to figure out who is killing people. And so they kind of like investigate all kinds of places, from like high society clubs to factories that are like all gross and disgusting, because it is like the late 19th century. So there are like a lot of like labor laws that, don't exist yet. So that also plays a pretty big part in this book, is like, I guess like, labor laws, not existing yet. So like abuses of power are pretty common in the issues that, not having this protection kind of creates, I guess. Basically, bosses are being shitty, which, when aren't bosses being shit, let's be honest. And since this is a mystery, I do want to talk about the like big reveals / plot twists. This will be spoiler free, so like don't worry about that. But I was surprised by the twists mostly. I kind of knew like where a reveal was going to come from, if that makes sense. But I did not see like the actual reveal, but I did not see like who the killer actually was, if that makes sense. As well as like the like history and past attached to why they're doing it. I also did not figure out that either. So I guess I was surprised on all fronts. I'll go ahead and say that this book was a 3 out of 5 for me, which is not bad. It's just, it did not work for me, I think, because it had everything that I should like, but I just either wasn't in the right mood for it, or I don't know. I have been fairly busy, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I do think the YA audience will like this. I did not. And I still give it 3. So like obviously there were parts I did like, but like overall it wasn't like the new best book of 2021 for me. This book is definitely more focused on like characters and how they interact, and like our own character Alter kind of like growing out the story than like the actual plot. The mystery is like a pretty big part of it, but you feel like you spend more time with the characters kind of like growing, I guess, than like actually like doing stuff, which might also have something to do with the fact that I didn't like this, because usually I prefer like plot over characters. So expect more character than plot. And while this is queer and there is a romance that happens in this, it's not the main focus at all. Like it's very like background. Like I think I said in my GoodReads review, I said this, it's more like a like C plot, like a D plot than even a B plot, because it really isn't there. They do like kind of actually admit that they do love each other, and there are like a few like cute scenes, but it's not like it's not in like abundance, if that makes sense. So I will talk about the pros and the cons. So this is a Gothic novel, and I do feel like it did a really good job of capturing the Gothic atmosphere with like, the Gothic imagery and all that, because we are in a city. Most of the like events take place at night, because our characters have to like work during the day. I know characters having to go to job is a very like weird thing, but for context, because Alter is like 17, but he is an immigrant during the late 19th century, and he's Jewish, so obviously he basically works all day in a factory, or he works in like a printing press kind of place, I think, like laying out type, I think, which basically it sounds like fucking hell. So basically factory to my lazy ass. I do feel like you do like kind of feel the darkness and the grime, and like just like the atmosphere of the city very well. Like, it doesn't feel like a very like optimistic slash happy place at all. It definitely does feel very Gothic, so it does accomplish that very well. And it does feel very set in the past of being in the Chicago World Fair. Like, usually it's hard for historical fiction to actually feel like it's very stuck in the past, but in this case it does feel very like it could have actually happened in the past, if that makes sense. And because of that, there are like historical facts that I do learn both about the Jewish community and like the past of Jewish people that kind of like immigrated here, and some like the potential backgrounds that kind of like made Jewish people want to immigrate to the Americas in the first place. You know, another pro is that Rizel, I think, or Rizel, basically our main female character. She exists, and that is a good reason to read this book because she was great. I loved her. I do wish we had more of her because she's not like the most present character. She is there for a few like main story plot beats, but I want to see more of her. So there's that. You know, another pro is that the romance is very cute. It warmed my cold dead heart. So there's that. And it was like kind of like a nice, refreshing thing to like have a book not be heavily focused on the romance, if that makes sense. Because usually a lot of YA tends to be very heavy-handed with the romance anyway. It was a nice change of pace to not have to deal with like the romance being like the main focus for once. So those are my pros. Honestly, for a Gothic historical fiction, it does both those things very well. So like obviously it is a very well-written book. Do you think the overall like word choice was very good? And I would probably reread this in the future just because I do want to kind of like make sure it wasn't just me being in a shitty mood, you know? So now onto the cons. I do feel like the pacing was kind of slow at times, especially during our last big climactic finale. It felt very like slow, which shouldn't happen because the finale is very like, it should have been very fast paced, but it just felt so slow to me. And that might have something to do with the fact that this book is like close to 500 pages. I think it's like 480 or close to that. So it is very long. And I just like, you would think that it should feel faster, but it feels very slow at certain points. Usually, weirdly enough, it feels very slow at the points that should be very action focused for whatever reason. But that slow pacing was not enough to make me like not like the book, which came out. It just came out at very like odd times for the pacing to be so slow, if that makes sense. And the synopsis does mention like a supernatural element that I won't say because it does not come into play fully until like almost halfway. Which again, for a 500-page book, is a very long time to not deal with something that comes up in the synopsis on GoodReads, you know? So like that was something that really bothered me because like I was expecting this paranormal element to be like a bigger part, and it is like a big part, but like it doesn't feel like as big as it should have, given its prominence in the GoodReads blurb, synopsis, whatever. So it's just that I was expecting more from that, and it never really got it. It does get addressed and do get like some depth on that, but it doesn't get as addressed as it should be. So personally, I would say don't read the GoodReads blurb if you can, or like don't read the disc jacket info on the front or on the flap or whatever. Just go in knowing that our main character Alter is trying to figure out who killed his friend. That's basically what you need to know. It takes place during the Chicago World Fair. There you go. Like, another thing is that even though this is very long, we didn't see a lot of our two like I guess other main characters, Rizel and Frankie. Like they're there, but they don't feel like as present as they should be, given how long this is. Like they're basically our main characters too, like closest friends, I guess. But kind of like another thing is people that he lives with, they're like his friends kind of. We don't really see them at all. They don't really do anything for the plot besides kind of like live in his house, you know? So it was just weird that like our like potential for like our cast to like get more depth never really happened. They kind of just there rarely, you know? It's just like more from them, like more of them interacting with our main lead, because a lot of this book is spent in Alter's head as he kind of like goes through things, tries to piece together what happened to his friend. You know, while his mind is a very interesting place to be, I just wanted more like other people besides him, if that makes sense. Just seeing so much of our lead kind of got almost boring at times because he was just there alone or like very focused inside his head. So I just wanted more like from people outside of him to kind of like interact with him. And so a lot of my problems have to do with like the very large page count. But that's just because I'm old and I don't like long books usually. So there's that. I really think that some things to spruce up the pacing and, you know, make our side cast more important, or like let them have more scenes, because given like the length of this book, you would think there'd be like more scenes with them, but it just isn't. And that's kind of just weird to think about. So yeah, that's my review, I think. If you want a book that's like spooky, Gothic, queer, also very focused on Jewish culture, here you go. You can pick up The City Beautiful. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, like, share, all that. Hopefully I will see you next week.